Hello, Denise Ramon at deniseramon.com and my lovely Eric. I love you.
Hello. Erik says, I love you, Mama. He says, I love you so much. He's all bundled up today.
I know why. So we found
He's
out
all
from the
bundled.
Get to Know the Mediums contest that Denise Ramon, her question was, where is the place that I would most love to visit and meditate in? And it was Antarctica.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Antarctica and all the mysteries involved.
That's exciting because I really never read up on Antarctica. I just feel very strong drawing to it for
All right,
some reason.
Eric, why does she feel this pull to that place?
Yeah, Erik. Um, he says energetically, there's the energy that goes on there. There's an energy he says, I connect with the energy that is there. And when he says that, he's showing me underneath the ice.
Yes, there is.
That
Yeah.
he's showing me underneath the ice. And when he says ice, he's talking, I see, feet thickness of ice underneath of that. Um, he says there's a whole nother peaceful, loving type energy there. And he says that's what I'm connecting to, is that energy there.
Well, some people see evidence that it could have been Atlantis before, but then the deluge, and we'll talk about more about that in a minute, happened and the continent moved. And I'll ask why, and it became frozen. And so that's the Atlantean, thing. So maybe you were an Atlantean, maybe, Eric? Was she?
Um, Erik doesn't say that I was, but he says I do have a direct connection with, I vibrate in that energy level of what's going on in there.
Okay.
Yes, that's what he's saying me. I just connect with that energy.
All right. We're probably going to have to do part 2 also because there's so much cool stuff. So was there an ancient civilization there 2 miles below the ice? Because now that we have some, melting of the ice, we see, and we have better satellites, we see evidence of structures, roads, buildings, etc.,
Wow.
just beneath the ice and a little bit on top. So tell me about what's going on there, Eric.
Erik is saying that there's a that there is, or there was, a whole nother, he's showing me like a city, like a whole nother community down, I say down there, but it wasn't always down there. It just, everything else made it down there. It was always up, is what he's showing me. um, there was a whole nother, he's showing me like entities there. It wasn't like what we would consider, I don't feel like it was humans per se, human life there. It was
Okay.
not like we think today, but he says there was another civilization, there was another life form there. Uh, um, Erik is, I feel that they're from another planet or something, that they came. But he says we all come from another place. But he says they came here to to evolve, is what it was. And I feel like they had some type of transportation that they were using. Um, Not everything was just on foot, or Erik says, or Campbell, or horse. Um, they had some form of transportation of some sort.
Okay, well, we're going to get to the identity of these beings eventually, but now, did the civilization of Atlantis cover the entire planet at one time? And then its main city is in Antarctica? And were Antarctica and North America actually connected billions of years ago, then separated?
So did
Did Atlantis cover the entire planet, but the main hub city where you can go out to bars and stuff. I'm kidding. Was in Antarctica?
Erik is saying yes, for our conception, yes, it did cover the whole world, the whole planet per se, because that's all there was at that time, he's saying. But when he says that's all there was, I feel like that was the human life, or well, he said it wasn't human life, but that was the life form that was going on. So yes, that was all of it, just like what's all going around the world right now, all of us, the different sectors and stuff. So this was the same, but he's saying, but it's not as big as we are thinking when we say around the world, like
Okay.
that.
Little
It's not,
isolated pockets, maybe.
it just wasn't as big.
Okay.
And then what was the other? Did it break off and go
Yeah.
into?
I mean, there's some people see evidence that it actually was just lush and, I mean, but that maybe it was attached to North America, Antarctica, that is, at one point, billions of years ago, maybe.
Erik is saying there is truth to that, because over time things drift. And he says, yes, things move and things drift away and shift. He says, we're not where we were situated. The United States is not situated where it was thousands of years ago either, because we've
Mm.
shifted. So yes, so he says, yes, it has shifted and it has drifted, to where it is. Yes.
Okay, so when did that happen, do you think? How many,
uh,
when did it separate and drift on to the South Pole and get all frozen?
Erik is saying thousands of years ago, thousands. He said it's like long time ago. I don't even think we have a, a tool to test how old.
Oh,
He
wow.
said he said it's thousands of years ago,
Okay.
because because it would go a little bit at a time.
Mm. Some people even wonder if beings, and I'll get to this, use some sort of nuclear explosion to separate them, but I don't know where that is in my list, so I'll get to that. Now, um, uh, was this ancient civilization, was it like, they're thinking 25,000 years, I mean 20,000 years ago, that it was um, in these structures and pyramids in Antarctica that wasn't always covered with ice?
I'm asking Erik if it was 20,000 years or 25,000. Erik says yes, but even longer than that,
Oh,
because because he just, what we're seeing is what has been allowed to be seen. And Erik is saying what is being seen, it's because we're in alignment to see this. We're ready for this to be seen.
oh.
Otherwise, we would have seen it a long time ago. But Erik says it goes on longer than 20,000 years ago at that. But Erik says you have to give us time to catch up with that as well. And I feel like he means um, people who are finding this, people who are seeing this, people who are hearing about this, because there's more. And Erik, he says, we just touched the iceberg of all of this information. And he says there's a lot of information down there that is a lot of knowledge is down there, he's saying, and it has to do with the energy, with what's going on in there, if we would just pay attention to it.
All right, well, there's a race of beings called the pre-Adamites that they found many of their skulls. They're very elongated heads. And they kind of believed they were gods. Maybe they had special powers, and that we humans were like invading their civilization. Are these pre-Adamites? Are they related to the Anunnaki, or even are they the Anunnaki?
Erik shows me, no, they're separated. Like it's the Anunnaki, you called them?
Anunnaki?
Anunnaki, and then what's the other one?
Uh, the pre-Adamites?
Yeah, he says they're separate. They're not together.
So they're
They're
not
not
related at all, right?
not in the sense that people are thinking or asking about. No, he says, but we're all related. But he says,
Yeah.
but they're separate from one another. Do they think that they were gods and that we were invading their territory? Erik says there is some truth to it, but not in the way that people are thinking, because they're looking at it as a negative way, like there was violence or something, or somebody didn't like us and they were doing stuff, and it's not that way. He said,
Okay.
um, that's Erik says that if anything, he says they were more curious about what we were up to, what the humans were up to, or what the people
Okay.
or whatever it was that was there, more curious. And Erik is also telling me they also deal with the ego just like we deal with ego.
Poor things. So, so did they come from another planet? If so, at least what constellation? And also the Anunnaki. I think they came from the Cygnus constellation, maybe. You can verify that, but where did the pre-Adamites come from?
The pre-Adamites, Erik, they come from the same vicinity as the Anunnaki, but it's like they came from the same, Erik says, the same atmosphere, because
The same constellation? Did they both come from just different
yeah, I
planets?
guess so, the same kind of constellation, because Erik is saying they come from the same atmosphere, they come from the same, even though they're not. He says it's like, some people are born in the US and some people are born in Iceland. It's like,
Yeah.
even though it's of the same universe, but it's different. They're a different spot, is what he's saying. He said yes.
Okay. Well, let's see. A lot of people have looked at these skulls and traced them back to as long as at least 55,000 years ago. And it's really interesting. They have red hair, light skin, and either blue or green eyes. I don't know how they know that. But anyway, if so, that means they're not Native American. They're not Peruvian, where they found a lot of people who actually do cranial deformities, or the Middle East, or are they a Middle East origin? I mean, the descendants of the ones that came from another planet.
When he was saying that, I was thinking, oh my God, you named some of my family members on my father's side.
Uh-oh.
With the eyes and the hair color and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
Um, Erik says they're not. When you say Middle East, you're not. I don't get that they are Middle East.
A lot of Afghani have light eyes, but I don't see that either. But basically,
Yeah, no.
obviously, they came from another planet, but then they created progeny, I guess, because they found babies with elongated skulls and all that. Were they like hybrid descendants? Did they hybridize with humans?
Erik says Erik says yes, and Erik says they were kind of they. Erik says yes, they did, and he is telling me like they um, were also experimenting with that type of stuff.
Ooh.
Uh, um, um, but Eric is saying that that's not uncommon for other ones to experiment like that, and
Yes.
to procreate here with us. He says it's really not uncommon. Um, for us, we think it's weird, but really, it's no difference than um, uh, Eric is saying a Caucasian with a African American. It's no different than
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Like Eric says, back in the 50s or 60s, we were like, but now it's like so common, and there's a lot of mixed races. And Eric says, really, it's the same thing. It's just on a much higher level. And Eric is teasing because he says, and you're talking about this, and he's sitting there telling me, he's saying, he's joking with me, going, "May the fourth be with you," because that's a Star Wars thing, and so
Oh,
he's doing that, laughing. But yeah, he said it's like basically the same thing. It's just
okay.
different beings.
Okay, so back to Antarctica. So again, there's evidence that it used to be a tropical rainforest. Then it moved to the South Pole. Some people think, well, it could be from nuclear war. It could be from an energetic release from the sun. Um, and then or it could be just continental drift. It could be more than one thing. So,
Eric says it is more than one thing. Eric says Eric says it's not nuclear. He says it's not that, but
yeah.
it's a combination of a lot of things and it's a combination of how we've treated our planet and done things. And Eric says there is truth that it was tropical because um, this was, this was to be a paradise environment. And he's talking about the planet Earth, a paradise environment. And you can't have what we would call paradise in Antarctica because you really can't sustain there for too long,
No.
And so,
Mm.
but he says it's Eric is saying it's almost the way like that was created was due to that. It had to do with how we treat the planet entirely, and also it's almost like a sacred grounds because even what we see under there now or what we know to be under there,
Mm.
there's even more stuff under there than what we don't even see.
So cool to find out. All right, so was it like the beings, extraterrestrials, somehow helped energetically with energy, whatever, part it from North America and move it to the South Pole?
Eric says it was definitely a um, combination of efforts in creating the Antarctic. And when I say creating the Antarctica, it was about some of the stuff was to preserve what was going on because he says
Oh, because we're
there,
not ready to know
yeah,
the secrets
and
that are hidden there,
because
maybe.
there is still energies evolving and alive there. It's not just about the whales and the penguins. And Eric is saying, and that's part of what I get interested in is the
Yeah.
energy, because even though there's stillness out there, you could feel the vibration. Eric says there's a lot going on there that, and what better way to protect it. But also Eric said before we started, he's also mentioned that some of the things that are starting to disrupt it a little bit over there evidently we must be doing some drilling of some sort over there
Oh,
in
no.
Antarctica. I don't know what it is, or Erik is just saying he's just showing me that there's some form of drilling over there. I don't know. Erik makes me feel like oil. Would you have oil there?
Well, if it used to be a tropical rainforest, could be,
I guess there's something, but he says there's drilling there though. But and that's that's not going to work well. And he says that will backfire on us. And
How?
um, Erik says, that it's going to change. It helps to, and not in a good way, to change the climate somehow. Because it's that vibration makes a difference, and our vibration makes a difference in what's going on
Yeah.
in areas. And he says, and that's going to make a difference. And he's showing me like um, the ice, like you say, it's melting. And of course, people say it's for world, global warming and other things, but there's a lot more, and it's just damaging it. But Erik is saying, um, we only let things go so far, and then the universe, spirit, source, God, or the beings come in and say, okay, you've done enough destruction, let us come in.
Okay.
Because
So,
there's things in there there's things in there that we're not ready to hear, and they don't want us to know yet.
were the pre-Adamites, were they at least in part the Atlanteans? Are they one and the same?
Erik says yes, you could say they're he says they're not, yes, he says you could say they're one and the same. They were a part of, they were a part of, is what he's saying. A part of.
So there were some of the beings in Atlantis,
He
in
says he
now
says
Antarctica.
he says yes. He says yes. They were a part of, because the way he's showing me, it's a part of the community. Yes, they were a part of the community. But what people are talking about, the Atlantis, and the people are there, they're talking about it's almost like what they're talking about and what these other people were. It's like he showed me like they had their own little job to do, and what people are interested in now is not what they did. They didn't participate in whatever it is people are interested in
So
that
there
way.
are different beings in Atlantis, both in different areas of the world and in the hub in Antarctica.
In Atlantis back then, but in the hub where it is right now, Erik says no, it's not where they are right now. He says no. I
Who,
don't feel like
the
I don't
Adamite
feel like the
or
Adamites. The Adamites aren't there. It's
pre-Adamite?
someone. Um, the pre-Adamites are not there. It's someone who I feel like these beings. They're very highly evolved beings, and they're
Oh
very
yeah.
intelligent, very very intelligent. And I also feel like they're very intelligent technology-wise. Is
Are
with
they
that.
still there? Any of them still there in Antarctica, deep in tunnels or stuff?
Erik is telling me yes that they are there. There's
Like
still.
hollow earth type stuff? Like beings that exist in these hollow caverns in the earth?
Erik says yeah. He's showing me portals.
Oh, portals, yeah.
Mhm.
Interesting. Are there any UFO craft, I mean, alien crafts, ET crafts buried under the ice?
Erik says some have. Erik says some have had crash landings. Are there
Maybe
some?
they parked it there. Who knows?
Erik says there are some that have landed there. Um, will we? I'm asking, will we see any of this? He said, mm, not now, because they not. We won't see that.
Okay.
Not
Is,
now. Not now. He said.
okay. Is there a large city under the Antarctic pyramids? And also, is there a large city under the Egyptian pyramids, for that matter?
Is there a large city under the Antarctic now, like where
Pyramids,
they're alive and
big
stuff?
city underneath this. Yeah.
Eric says there is life under there.
So there's a big city under there.
Eric says, yeah, he's showing me there is
Not bad.
life. There is life under there, you know. Um, he said yes, you know, like what perfect place to have something, you know, where they're really protected for the most part. And I guess the reason why he's saying that is because of how frigid the temperatures are there, because you know life cannot sustain there for too long.
No, but underneath, deep down,
There's a whole nother
closer you get
story.
to the core.
And to answer your question about is there a city in that under the pyramids,
Yeah.
like in Egypt and stuff like that, Eric is saying Eric Eric is not saying yes to that.
Okay.
I'm not getting a firm no, but he's not saying yes to that.
Okay, let's get back to the cataclysm. Okay, so I got some questions on that. Is some dude called Elohim, Elohim, purposely let the flood happen to wipe out as many of the pre-Adamites as possible? And yeah.
Did he? Did one person do all that?
Well, Elohim, I don't even know who that is.
I don't.
Did anybody purposely make this flood happen in order to wipe out the elongated-headed pre-Adamites?
As
Just
you
so that the seed, so the humans, apparently we're what is it? We are seed genetically created race. We are a genetically created race that they wanted to seed out throughout Earth to inherit the Earth. So was there a conscious effort to replace the pre-Adamites by destroying them in a flood and letting this genetically created race of Adamites, humans, to inherit the Earth?
Eric says yes, but he says, let me clean this up. Let me wash this up. He's saying that everybody that has come here, whatever planet you come from or from whatever God you come from, we come here, he says, and we always think we have a better idea than the next person.
Mm.
So they come here and they're going to clean things up. And he says, one thing is way back then it wasn't as heavily populated as it is now.
Oh yeah.
And he says when you said that person's name, Eric is saying not one person has that kind of power to do that. I feel like there was a very large group effort, and I don't know if it was a flood, but there was definitely a group effort to, and when I say a group, I'm talking a large group effort to say this is what we're going to do and we're going to change this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the cataclysm, pre-Adamites, well, did any of them, I think some must have survived, right?
Eric says, of course.
Okay. Now, after the cataclysm, pre-Adamites apparently spread out across the world without any ability to communicate to one another. And they say that survivors were really not pure pre-Adamites, that they're mixed and spliced with local humans. Is that true about the survivors? Or are some pure and some spliced?
Well, Eric is saying there's some truth to it, you know, where they were spliced or mixed. But Eric says we always have the ability to communicate with one another. It's about believing, about knowing if we can. If we think that we can't anymore, then we can't. He said they had an ability to communicate with each other. It's definitely not the way we communicate right now. I feel like it's more, I feel like the way Eric is saying, it's like they communicated more telepathically
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and stuff like that. And you know, when you start getting into more of what Erik is saying, the human emotion part, then the ego flips in and says, no, you can't do that. And then that just takes over and kind of, you know, it just kind of helps to wash that away. But Erik says they could communicate with one another. It's just a matter of connecting, and
Okay.
believing,
Okay.
knowing.
Now, after the Atlantean cataclysm, 12.5 thousand years ago, they're thinking, two pre-Adamite groups apparently survived. One in Europe and Europe/Asia, which became the Egyptian pharaonic line, and the other in Mesoamerica, forming the Mesoamerican priesthood, like I don't know, Mayan and all that kind of stuff. What do you say to that? Is there any truth behind that?
Erik says, we are really smart. He says, people have been doing homework. Erik says, for the people researching this, and Erik says, the people researching this stuff and that involved and heavily involved, they're not heavily involved with it because it just struck up something like it looked like it would be fun. They have a direct connection as to why they're researching this. They're researching a family tree, Erik is saying. That's why they are so involved, because he says, Mama, you just wouldn't spend this much time on something that didn't hold, you know, that didn't hold your interest very long.
Yeah.
You would have to have a strong yearning, he's saying, to want to devote years and years and hours upon hours
Yeah.
researching it.
Yeah,
And
sure.
he said there's a direct connection. It's like, he says, they're doing their family tree is what they're doing. He said some of them know it and some of them don't. He's surprised the ones that don't question why they're so drawn to this, you know. But he says he said that impresses him, that kind of work. But he said there is he said yes, you know, there is truth to that.
Yeah. Well, some think that that some pre-Adamites still exist. I mean, some are supposed to be able to live thousands of years. Is that true? And if so, where are these original pre?
Erik says not here.
Okay,
Not,
not on Earth. Okay.
not on Earth. No, Erik says no. He said they wouldn't be able to sustain themselves here on Earth.
God, okay. Now, then the new humans, Adamites, with their new genetically modified GMO DNA, and was it intended for the spiritual expression of humans to come out? And that upset the pre-Adamites. They didn't want us to be able to spiritually express ourselves.
Eric's Erik is saying no, that's not. Erik is saying that's not. They didn't want us to not spiritually.
Well, what did it have against us, you know, um, Adamites?
Intelligence,
Uh,
intelligent,
huh?
intelligent,
They didn't want
intelligence,
the intelligence,
our
intelligence.
intelligence, our intelligence.
They wanted to be able to oppress and manipulate and control us, make us slaves. I don't know.
Um, Erik is he's just saying and I don't even, these beings, I don't, that they didn't really think we would be intelligent. Humans would be that intelligent, because one of the things is we're still connected to the ultimate source. And I don't think that they make that connection or made that connection, that we still
Okay.
come from one ultimate prime source.
Surprise! Oh, yeah. You think they'd be evolved enough?
I
All right.
know.
So they got the two groups, um, and then there's this family, the D'Este, D apostrophe E-S-T-E family in France. Wait. No. Back up. These two groups, the Mesoamerican and the European Asian ones, didn't communicate until the conquistadors from Europe came to Mesoamerica. Are these part of the Illuminati, or were they pre-Adamite descendants searching for places of power, or none of the above?
Erik is telling me none of the above.
So were the conquistadors the descendants of the pre-Adamites that were on the Egyptian, European, Asian side?
Erik says there is a connection there. Erik says, yes, there is a connection there. Yes.
Okay. The D'Este, D apostrophe E-S-T-E family in France, really elongated skulls, and the bloodline seems to go through all European royalty, German, Italian, Spanish, all that. Can you talk about that? Are they descendants of the pre-Adamites?
Um, Erik says there's a mixture of that in there. Erik says there's a mixture of, he's saying there's a mixture of that in there. But it's, Erik is saying there's a little bit more, some other stuff involved in there.
What do you mean?
Like I just I get like from how Erik is showing me, like the male was one species and the female was another species, and then
Okay.
it came together like that.
So they're not pure pre-Adamite descendants.
No.
They're hybrid.
Yes, as Erik is showing me, he's saying yes.
Okay. How many people are on the earth that now have elongated skulls? Some estimates are like, I mean, like the pre-Adamites. Some estimates are like 15,000, and it seems like a lot of them are in financial districts in New York and London, and also in the Vatican. So there's question as to whether they are here to control our religious and political organizations and to safeguard the secrets under the ice in Antarctica.
Erik says, the people who are here now, a lot of them don't even go there with those conversations, but there is a financial situation involved.
Can you elaborate?
There's a connection with that. Erik is saying that a lot of them are very intuitive, so they just know what to get into and what not to get into. It's not that they can see like on May 8th something's going to happen, but they just intuitively know what to get into and what not to. Is there a connection with the both of them? He says there is a connection, but it's more on an energetic level than a conscious level.
Okay. So these people with elongated skulls seem to be, descendants of the pre-Adamite, human hybrids. They subconsciously gravitate toward the financial districts and the Vatican.
Well,
And
Eric is saying
political organizations?
that, like in the financial part, they're raised in an environment and this is what they're taught, to do things and to how to, they're just taught, it's like um, being in a family of nothing but school teachers,
Okay, yeah.
and stuff. So you're this way. Um, for that within the Vatican and stuff like that, Eric is saying that there's Eric is just saying, and I feel like he's doing this for my behalf too, is there is a form of control in that area, about there's a and the reason why there's a form of control is because there's finances involved in with it.
Mm.
And Eric is just showing me a ring, which means I feel like there's a ring of people around all of that keep it. Like they let people know certain things and they give them titles and stuff so that they can feel good. And it's almost like they do that as a pacifier and a almost like to, like a camouflage of what's really going on, to
Oh,
like distract them for what's really going on. Because Eric is saying not everybody that's in the Vatican or around the Vatican really know what's going on. It's like they've been given a pacifier, they've been given something to distract them why other stuff is going on.
yeah, Pope Francis has said he supports disclosure of all this. He believes in all of it. So it's getting out there, right?
Eric says yes, and Eric says that Pope is that there's truth behind his words and him speaking that.
Okay, so could it be that the 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 beings that came here as pre-Adamites, those on their home planet, could be controlling the consciousness of their hybrid descendants in financial, religious, and political organizations?
Eric says it's not. Eric says no. They don't have that ability, and that would be defying the laws of the universe.
Oh,
And
okay. But I
so
mean, in a good way, because they also apparently want to safeguard the secrets of Antarctica under the ice.
yes,
Somehow.
but they don't want to do. They're not doing stuff to like harm us, like
No,
trying
no,
to.
no,
Yeah, no,
no,
nothing
no,
like that.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, uh,
Well, yeah.
is as a guidance tool. Yeah, and Eric says, but there's others that are guiding us also during
Oh,
this
okay.
time. Yeah.
All right. So those in finances and religious organizations, political organizations, um, if they are hybrid descendants, they are subconsciously um, safeguarding the secret. I don't know
I
what
don't know
are
if
they doing?
I don't know if they are subconsciously guarding, but they are. Eric says some of them know what they're doing. Some of them know,
Mm-hmm.
but when you get finances in there, money, people, and Eric is saying it don't matter where you're from, and he's
I
doing the
know.
whole galaxy
Yeah.
universe. You know, people do safeguard that, and they do things for that. There are some people who Eric is saying that where people wear their hearts. He's showing me up here on their shoulder, and there's some people that take their heart and throw it out, and that doesn't. They don't use that as a guidance tool. And he says, but then there are some that are thinking about the people and everything that's going on. He says you have a mixture of different types of people that are there. And when I say within that type of energy, those group of people, um, Eric is saying, one of the things that isn't going to happen that people say will or won't or whatever is a total collapse of everything.
Oh gosh. Okay. Hmm. All right. Just real quickly, can you give me any details about the city under the pyramids? This massive city, who apparently they have living inhabitants under the pyramids of Antarctica. Just real quickly, because I have so much. I don't have enough for part two.
Erik is
But
saying, what's going on under there? He says, these people who are here up on top of the ice and stuff, so to speak,
uh-huh.
who are, because the people underneath, Erik is making me feel like they are really they're not here to harm, they're not here to cause
What is
destruction.
it? What's there? They have houses? Or, I mean, is the city like?
Yes, but a lot of technology. Erik was showing me that
Oh
earlier.
wow.
A lot of technology, a
Yeah.
lot. And it's like when I say when we are, when I guess individually or as a group, when we are ready and responsible to be able to handle any information, they help us to get that kind of information, whatever it may be. Just like these people who are doing the research to investigate this and that have spent decades researching this, as they become more responsible and more mature to handle more information, then they allow them, they like guide them to this information. Erik also is saying there's like an underground medical system there where where they can just like put two rods together and zap you back to health or whatever it is, or heal a cut like right
Oh,
away, almost like you see on TV,
yeah.
on the sci-fi. There's a lot of technology going under there, and Erik is saying this is one of the reasons, and I have chills, why I even get connected, because I can feel the energetic, the vibration
Yeah.
that's under there. And Erik says it's all for goodness, and he says, and it's almost like they had to go underground to finish their mission of what they came here for.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is, to help to bring, I don't know, bring peace, bring
Oh, we
love
need
out there.
all the help we're gonna do. Do they ever come out of their little portal and up to the surface ever?
Erik says, yes, they do, but we won't ever see them. And when he
Interesting.
does, I feel like they're just like they can become little, like they
Cool.
become small, so where we can't see them. Yes.
Oh yeah, I've seen on Gaia where they had this body of this little bitty elongated. But do they have elongated heads?
Um, Erik isn't showing me they do. No.
What do they look like, Erik?
Um, their skin is like gray, is what he's
Okay.
showing me. And he goes, no, they're not dead. He said their skin is gray. Um, you can tell by their eyes who's feminine and who's masculine.
Cool.
Um, um, they have. He's showing me their eyes are very beautiful. I want to say they're dark, but they're not brown and they're not black eyes. They're just dark eyes. Um, they don't have ears like we do. Their ears are like, they don't have the ear lobe part, but they have the ears.
Okay.
Um, Erik is doing this. Yes, they have the 10 digits. He's doing that. They're very, I feel like they're tall and thin. He's also telling me that they are, um, they're vegetarian, or he's
Okay.
vegan is what they are. They don't eat.
Where do they get food? Do they grow
Um,
it down there at a little?
Erik is telling me down there, so I guess they do their own food. How they do their food. Uh,
Cool.
they yes,
Are
how
they
they
from
grow.
Cygnus? I mean, what are they called? And what constellation are they from?
Ooh, I'm not getting from Erik what constellation they're from. For some reason, I feel like they're still,
Secretive about that.
they are. Erik is just
Okay,
not,
that's fine.
Erik is just not giving me, I mean, like nothing. And
How long do they live?
Erik says, um, he says hundreds of years. They live a long time.
Wow. So they found this map depicting Antarctica before it was covered with ice. It was plotted in 1513 by a Turkish cartographer, Piri Reis. It's called the Piri Reis map. How in the world did he get information about the land from tens of thousands of years ago?
Erik says it's very simple because one, they knew, and I'm assuming, I guess everyone, I don't know, but knew how to energetically connect. And he says also too, they just knew how to go and connect to get the information, like go within, how to connect. And Erik has also shown
Oh,
me how people also knew how to, like they could travel, like
well, that's interesting that you say that. But so he channeled this map, maybe. Is that what you're saying?
Erik says yes, because they know how to connect. You know,
Who's
they
they?
knew,
What do you mean they?
the people back then, they knew how to connect. You know, it's like
Oh,
we
so
were,
they're giving Piri Rice that gave him, or how we put
yeah,
it.
he knew how to sit there and connect to get this information, and he just happened,
Oh,
to listen. Erik is saying it's a lot of us now that it's, it's way back then they knew where to connect and get information, how to be still and hear that inner voice that we all struggle
yeah.
now to hear. And
But I
it was,
think the map had little images of people in boats and stuff. So even back then, tens of thousands of years ago, it looked like that the beings or we hybrid, just or whatever, were a seafaring race, right?
Erik says yes. Erik
I mean, it
says
looked
yes.
like they could migrate by sea long before humans, pure humans, learned to sail and circumnavigate.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Last question. I have more, but whatever. Does Stonehenge have some sort of connection with the influence of Saturn? And is it connected with those that have elongated heads? Or is it connected to other planets, whatever? What about Stonehenge and the long heads?
And the long head.
And
Erik says there is a connection there, and the way it's positioned and the way they are and everything does have a direct connection. Erik says, everything that was done back then, there was a purpose and a reason for it. It wasn't like, oh, let's just plop this pyramid here because
oh,
this is free land. Or let's just plop whatever, here because this is free land. There was a purpose why everything was built and put and moved where it was. And Erik says, we think things are, he goes, and there is some kind of truth to today how we do things. There's a reason why certain things are put where they're put. It may not be in the same format as why things were done back then, but he's telling me things back then were done because there was a way of channeling, getting information, contact, for people. It was like a point of reference, but there was messages on how everything was done because how things were communicated.
okay. Well,
Um,
we'll cover that in a later session.
yeah,
To end, it's just amazing. They found so many elongated skulls and they've gotten DNA from them, and they do not match anything known to be human. So it's from other places. So, all
that's
right.
wild.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Erik and Denise. Y'all check her out, her, that beautiful woman, at
Thank you.
denisearmand.com, which I will put right here. Thank you so much, Denise. We're going to have to do a girls' trip to Antarctica.
I would love to. I would
It's
love
so
to.
fun. All
All
right,
right.
girl. Thank you.
Take care.
You
Eric says, bye,
too.
Mama.
Bye. Love you.